Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with Cami. This is Cami Wanis, the Freedom Scholar. And if you're listening to this on our podcast, it's Homeschool Success with Cami Wanis. I am so excited because today we are talking about all-in-one curriculums. We're talking about curriculum, specifically the all-in-one curriculum. Those are the curriculums that have each and every subject all in one place. So it's either in book form or online, but you have all the subjects from one place. And those are very popular right now. But there are some problems with it. There's some big problems. And the biggest problem is that it lowers your love of learning. It's not going to get you the lifelong learning that you're looking for. And I'm going to talk about all of that and why that happens, why we're so attracted to it. And we're also going to talk about what in the world do we actually look for? What is the so if we don't look for that, then what kind of curriculum do we look for? We're going to talk about that as well, okay? You guys, this is super important to me. This is on my heart. And if you watched live this morning or earlier today, you knew that my audio was a little bit spotty. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just re-recording this now so you can watch it again if you want to, where all the audio is on. I'm not even going to touch it. I'm just hoping that it's all going to be there. So you guys, this is such an important topic because parents are attracted to all in one curriculums. It seems like it's the easy way to go. I see this all over Facebook groups and it absolutely drives me mad. Don't feel bad if you're one of those. I'm going to talk about why it's so attractive and it's all good. It's all good. But it's so attractive to parents. They say, "How can I, what's the best homeschool all-in-one curriculum? I want a curriculum that's open and go. I want a curriculum that kids just log on and then they're good, for the day or they log on and do it themselves. I'll help them out whenever they need it." But there's a lot of reasons why it's so attractive, but there's a lot of parents asking about that right now, especially with the beginning of the school year. And I want to just take some time because this is hugely important. And I deal with this all the time when I'm mentoring parents that this is a problem that ends up happening in a cycle that ends up happening over and over again and that lowers love of learning. It doesn't get you the results that you want. So I mean, why is it so attractive to us in the beginning, anyways, right? Well, guess what? It's what we know. If that's you, if you're using an all in one curriculum right now, or if you're looking for one, don't feel bad about it. It's totally normal. It's totally natural for us to want an all in one curriculum. It's what we know. When we went to school, we had a curriculum for every single subject, right? They weren't all from the same manufacturer, but they were all, a curriculum, a textbook, a something for every subject. We had a class, we had a something, a teacher, we had something for every single subject. So it's totally normal. I did the same thing when we started first grade. I got all these workbooks and I was all excited and it didn't turn out like I thought. I will talk about that in a minute. You guys know my story, but this is something that's totally natural. We want it because it's the easy button. We want to push that easy button and we want to just have that like open and go thing. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to deal with it. I just want to have them learn their stuff and they're good because that's what they did in school, right? Guess what? Homeschooling and lifelong learning, creating lifelong learning is different. It's different. It's not like that, right? We're just not turning our kids over to the curriculum because you're not going to get the results you want. I'm going to talk about more about why in a second, but it's the easy button. It's what everybody wants to push, right? It's also satisfying our educational should. You guys I've talked about that before. The educational should is that idea that we should be learning this at this age or grade, that we should be doing math every day, that we should be doing a certain amount of hours. They should know their times tables by third grade. They should know, all of these things that we should on ourselves. It's so difficult to overcome that. And it's one of the things that really, really is different about me is I help you overcome that, right? I help you overcome that educational should. It's hard. It took me a solid 6 years to overcome that. But I was also a high school teacher for 6 years or for 7 years. So I had ingrained, systemized thinking in my brain. And my husband still teaches in the public school. So I still had that thinking. I had to really work at it very intentionally. And so that's one of the things that's really satisfying our educational should, is we're saying, well, it's all here, everything's here, it's all checking our boxes, right? Educational should is all about checking boxes. And you guys know, I've talked about this before, what box checking does. Box checking is very much lowering love of learning, right? And I'll talk about more about that in a second. But the educational should, if you don't know about that, or if you want to learn more about that, listen to podcast episode number 6. Our podcast is called Homeschool Success with Cami Wanis, and you can find it on Apple and Spotify. Just go to number 6. It's only on the podcast, and you will learn all about the educational should and how to overcome it there. But it's the easy button, it's the educational should, and it also satisfies our own insecurities, our own fears that we're not going to get our kids everything that they need. I hear that every single day. I want to make sure my kids get what they need, or that they don't have any gaps, or they're not lacking in something, right? And so when you're thinking about that, it's very overwhelming for us as parents to take all of this on as homeschoolers, right? We're like, oh my gosh, we're responsible not only for who they are, but what they know and how they're going to be prepared for the world, right? Guess what? That's parenting. That's parenting. And you guys got this. You could totally do it. That's what I love, is I love helping you do that, right? So one of the things that all-in-one curriculums do is they satisfy that need for us, that need of like, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know. And so it really helps us check those boxes for us. But it's checking boxes for the kids too. And here's the problem: it lowers love of learning, just like school does, because you're basically doing school at home when you're using those all in one curriculums. And so you're getting the results that you got in school. And maybe not the bullying or the social aspect, whatever, but you are getting the results of checking those boxes. And that is something that can really lower level of love of learning in any child. By the time kids are in third grade, 90% of them or more has lost their love of learning. It's so crazy. And if you want those results at home, that's what you can all in one, especially online curriculum. Online is even worse because it's really it really sends a message that here's where we learn, right? But that it's all in one curriculum in general kind of does that as well, but it's very restrictive to like your classes happen here and learning happens here. So it generally lowers love of learning, and it reinforces and creates box checkers because they're waiting for someone to tell them when to think, when to learn, how to learn, in terms of like we learn it on the curriculum, and what to think. So it's really restrictive. It teaches us when to learn and how to learn in this way. We only learn in this book or in this, we need a textbook, we need a class, we need an online something. And then it also is restrictive in telling us, hey, this is the box that we're learning right now. And this is only the box. And then we'll move on to something else. It doesn't allow for further study, for further exploration, right? And rabbit trails. You guys know I love rabbit trails. They're so fun and they're so exciting. So that's something you really, really want to think about. What are the results that you want to get? And so if this sounds like you, if it sounds like, oh man, we're just in the frustration, we've got low level of love of learning in our home, there's frustration, there's stress, there's complaining, there's nagging, or man, I remember that from last year, I just need a new curriculum. No, you don't. I'm sorry to say that. I know that's hard to hear, but you don't need a new curriculum, because a new curriculum is not going to fix your love of learning. A new curriculum only just puts it in another box. So if you want to fix love of learning first, And then you want to go out and use the tools, which are the curriculum, right? Okay. So I know that's crazy. And this is what I love because you guys, when we have box checkers, what do we end up with? We end up with followers. And if we're trying to create leaders that go out in the world that are passionate and use their gifts and talents to solve a problem that stirs their soul in the world and makes this world a better place, which I am on a mission to do, you guys. I am here to help you guys do that. That is not going to happen with the all in one curriculum because it puts them in, it's waiting for somebody to tell them, here's what we're learning today. Here's only what we're learning today. And here's how to learn it. Right. Okay. And when to think. Ooh, that just gets me. That just gets me. So we end up with a lot of, it seems easier in the beginning because we're like, man, press that easy button, open and go, just go online, do your thing. But it ends up being more stressful because low level of learning is always harder, makes everything harder, makes life harder. High level of love of learning makes everything easier. You guys, it makes everything easier. Trust me, I've done both. I've done both. We had it so I lowered when I had all my workbooks and everything with my son when he was 6 in first grade. We were doing it, and pretty soon, like, I mean, it wasn't taking very long before he was done. And I wasn't done though. I was like, man, we got to do math. If we don't do math every day, we're going to fail at life. Right. So then I'm pushing him and he's getting more frustrated. He's starting to cry every day. He's starting to do less and less and less every day. His level of love of learning is dropping right before my eyes, and I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. I'm crying every day. I know it shouldn't be like this. And so I had to reset our love of learning. I had to reset what we were doing and I had to regain that love of learning in him. Granted, it wasn't that long, so it didn't take that long for him, but it took a while for me to unlearn that educational should and to get out of that box checking. And so it does make everything stressful. It seems easier to have an all in one curriculum, but in actuality, it's not because pretty soon everybody's just hating life. And it might not get you to the end goals that you want. You guys, that's what makes me so passionate about what I'm doing. It's the end goal. The end goal when they're 18, when they're leaving your house, what kind of people do you want them to be? What kind of learners? What kind of skills? What kind of things do you want them to know? School never asked that question. So they don't know that. I've talked with parents who have high schoolers who've never even thought about those questions before. That's what I do. That makes me different than all the other homeschool mentors out there because I start with the end in mind. You guys know I'm all about leadership development, and we got to start with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says. And then we work backwards from there and say, what kind of tools, what kind of routines, what kind of habits are going to get us there? If it sounds like you need some of that, then get in contact with me. Let's talk, you guys. I love talking with you. I love getting to know you and figuring out what your end goal is and helping you get there. That is my jam. That is my mission. That is exactly what I'm put on this earth to do, to help you raise those leaders that go out in the world and make this world a better place. So either message me on social media, email me mentor@thefreedomscholar.com, or just go down below in the show notes and in the description in the comments. I put a link in there to get in touch with me to schedule a free call. We can talk and let's just talk about what's going on because I want to help you. Seriously, it's really, really something that is my passion. So, one of the things I want to share. So, what do we do now, right? One of the things I want to share with you is what the heck? So, what do we do now? We know online curriculum or the all in one curriculum. Okay, that's not going to work. So, what do we look for? We look for a couple of things, and I want you to do a few things. One is you got to unlearn that educational should. You've got to unlearn it. Contact me. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to do a family reset and get you going in the right direction, and your kids too, but mostly you, but your kids too. And then you want to think about what message you want to send to your kids about learning. If you're creating lifelong learners, you're going to want to send two different messages. You're going to want to send the message that learning happens everywhere all the time. You guys know my mantras, right? Learning happens everywhere all the time, and homeschooling is learning through life. Homeschooling is learning through life. If we're not constantly sending those messages with everything that we're doing, then that's not what they're getting. And they're going to go out in the world thinking, I need a curriculum. I need a box. I need something that I have to check in order to learn. And those are the only places where I'm learning anything important, because that's what is deemed important in the all in one curriculums, right? The third thing is I want you to look for something that inspires further learning. Right. So, give you an example. My son, if you listen to the podcast episode I did 2 weeks ago, it was with my son, and I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was all about lifelong learning results from a teen's perspective. And it was with my son. And he talked about how he just digs into stuff all the time. And you guys, homeschooling, I'm the freedom scholar, and I am all about freedom, and the freedom for learning is there too. The freedom to learn. Freedom to learn? Don't they have freedom to learn? They can learn whenever they want. Well, do they know that? Do they have the freedom to learn? Because when they're in an all in one curriculum, when they're in this box checking mode, these are the boxes, and I'm checking them, and then I'm done. Then there's no more learning. See, and this is really, really problematic. You guys, I was very good at checking boxes when I was in high school and all throughout school. I was a great box checker. I got A's and B's, mostly A's, but some B's too. And I did just enough to check those boxes, but I didn't do any more than that. And so that's common for most of us. And those of you that didn't do the box checking in school, you actually have less to unlearn. So congratulations. But if you were a box checker in school, this is exactly what happens all the time. I had to unlearn that, and I had to regain my love of learning. And it didn't come back until I was a senior in college. And I was like, I was learning about stuff I was really interested in. I was like, man, this is my only job. This is awesome. This is awesome. But I didn't regain that love of learning until I was almost out of college. Thankfully, it's always been with me, and I've helped transfer that to my son. But it's something that you want to think about, okay? So you want to think about something that inspires further study. Go down those rabbit trails. My son was talking about when he watched a documentary, and then he was really interested and kind of curious about how that applies to other civilizations that had collapses of their civilizations. He was like, it was like ancient Greece and Rome and all these other ones. Actually, that was about I think it was about Babylonian um kind of, or no, it was a Bronze Age civilizations that collapsed. And so what he did was he went here and got out a textbook that we have on world history. We just happened to inherit a textbook, and he was like, I think this would probably have some information that I'm curious about, that I want to know. He also has a book on ancient civilizations, and he's like, that one probably has some information I know. He studied for hours, and then he actually wrote a diagram about it and related it to where we are today and some of the commonalities of all of those civilizations that collapsed, some of the key things that each one of them experienced, and how we're experiencing those, or we haven't yet, right? Where we are in that train. It was fascinating. We had discussions about it. Do your kids have that kind of freedom to learn? Because all in one curriculums don't allow for that typically. They really, really don't. So it's really something you want to think about, right? If that sounds like something that you want for your kids, reach out to me, because this is what I do. This is my passion. This is really what I love doing, is helping getting out of that box checking and really creating lifelong learners. Because you guys, I talk to parents all the time that say, "Man, we tried this curriculum, then we tried this curriculum last year, and then we're trying this curriculum this year. And I just know I need a different curriculum because that one didn't fit for us. And this will hopefully fix our frustration and our stress level." And it doesn't, and it doesn't, and it doesn't. I just talked to a mom yesterday, actually, who's fantastic. Her son is fantastic. They were doing a school, an online school. They were doing independent study. Her son is actually 16. He's like a professional, like already in his life. He's a professional already. It's super amazing. He's like into racing and he's flying planes. He's teaching adults defensive driving courses. He's incredible. And a they were looking for a school that was like part-time, in-person, part-time out of, homeschooling. And I was like, a lot of it's probably hard for him to keep up with all the schoolwork. She's like, "Oh yeah, totally." And then I said, "A lot of the stuff he's learning in what he's doing already is actually a lot it's studies. It's studies. It's curriculum." And she was like, "What?" So she's super excited. She's so awesome. I can't wait to work with her. She's so amazing. And it's so fun to be able to break free of that mold and to think about how do we put that together even in high school? You can do it even in high school. We do. It's so fun. It's so fun. So remember that when love of learning is low, no curriculum is going to solve the problem. But when love of learning is high, you can almost pick anything and they'll learn from it. My kid picked out a history textbook. I mean, what 15-year-old comes and reads a textbook like just for fun? He does. It's crazy, right? So that's what is so important about having a high level of love of learning. So if you need that, if you're thinking about, I just need it to where my kids own their education, they're curious, they go down rabbit trails, and we use that for our homeschool, and I can feel good about that. Let's talk. Contact me. Let's chat. This is so fun. And this is exactly what we do in the Inspiring Lifelong Learning program. This is my jam. This is what I teach because we need to start with the end in mind and then we need to unlearn some things and we need to lay down some new learning expectations. What is actual learning? And how do we create the culture and the environment to where lifelong learning is in being inspired all the time, to where learning happens everywhere all the time, to where we're seeking out things on our own and the kids are seeking out information and they're curious about stuff and they dig deep. You guys, my son digs deep into topics. I mean, deep. It is amazing. We had a great leadership talk last night about the things that he was doing as the head scout and leading a whole group discussion. And he's like, some of those kids over there, they're like, just, they're not doing a good job. They're talking out of turn. And I said, okay, let's talk about how we can engage, how we can use their interest to build the conversation and re-engage them in the conversation. It was so phenomenal. And he left super juice and he was like, yes, this is exactly what I needed. And I don't even have to admonish anybody. I could just say, hey, what do you think about that? So amazing and so empowering. And you guys, this is exactly what high level of love of learning will get you. But all in one curriculums will not get you that lifelong learning. I hate to say it. I hate to put it in a box like that, but it really does. It really does happen. And so if you're looking for something different or how to put together something that actually creates lifelong learning, make sure we get in touch. I'm so inspired by this, you guys. This is going to be a great new school year. And I know that we are going to create a whole bunch of lifelong learners and leaders that go out in the world and make this world better. You guys got this. I can't wait to help you on this journey. And we'll talk to you again next week. Bye bye.